Hi, this is Reverend Al Sharpton, and I am not at the House of Justice today. I am in New Orleans at the Essence Music Festival, where for 25 years, Essence has held these festivals. And I've been the only one that has spoken at all 25. Even when Katrina happened and they had to move the festival to Houston for 1 year, we kept it going. And no one thought in 1994, when we started the festival, that it would become this. I think the intention was at the beginning to just do it 1 year. And I remember the power panel of black leadership. I was on, Kawaisi and Fume was the president of the NAACP. Reverend Jesse Jackson was on from then Rainbow Coalition, and someone from the Nation of Islam, and myself. And every year I've been there since. One of the things that's important about it is it's a gathering of our people, particularly women, but also men, that we in the daytime do workshops, plenary sessions, speeches, and at night the top entertainment is us at our best. And it showed with Girls Trip, the movie, brought a whole nother generation in. I'm there this year because not only will I speak probably about now at the Ernest Morial Convention Center where we have the power stage, but I will also help the owner of Essence and the Dennis Richelieu and the CEO Michelle Ebanks. The three of us will question several of the presidential candidates that are coming. This morning, Senator Kamala Harris of California, then Senator Cory Booker of New Jersey, then Senator Elizabeth Warren of Massachusetts, then Beto O'Rourke, former congressman from Texas, and tomorrow morning, Sunday morning, Mayor Pete Buttigieg. Now, one of the things I want to talk about this morning is that when you look at the aftermath of the debate, we saw midweek that the polls started showing that Senator Kamala Harris, who we've all known for a while, Kamala Harris was honored by National Action Network at our Triumph Awards about 6 or 7 years ago, when she was just running for Attorney General. We've known Cory Booker since he ran and lost for mayor, then came back and became mayor of Newark. So we've known some of them. When I look at Kamala Harris rising in the poll, and one poll, the Quinnipiac poll, which is the Q poll, had her 2 points, within 2 points of Joe Biden, which is a statistical dead heat. The issue for me is not who we're supporting. I haven't endorsed anybody. The issue is that race has become a prevalent issue. Joe Biden, who was far ahead in all the polls, former vice president, presumed to be the winner of the nomination, he made a statement and said that he dealt civilly with those that were racist and segregationists, James Eastland in Mississippi. Now, some people say, well, you got to deal with people that you oppose. I've dealt with that all my life, but I didn't have this nostalgic memory, nor did I consider them civil. But that you can put here. What struck me at the debate is that when Mrs. Harris, when Senator Harris raised it, his response was very interesting. I want you to get this now. She said that you've worked with people who were unilaterally, vehemently, even vociferously, I'm saying vociferously, was opposed to busing. First of all, let's be real clear. They did not have busing as a social experiment for black and white kids to sit around singing Kumbaya and all be well. Busing was because they would not put equal resources and equal educational quality of education, that is, in the black community. Brown versus Board of Education decision in 1954 said separate was not equal. I was born that year. So the busing was to guarantee that black kids got a quality education, and the only way they could guarantee that is they had to send them into white areas. I was bused for another reason in Brooklyn, New York. There were no high schools in Brownsville when I grew up. So they bused us to Flatbush to Tilden High School. So it was lack of resources where they either didn't build the schools or there wasn't quality education. That's what caused this. And that's what made busing what it was. That was misinterpreted. But what bothered me, what struck me, was his response. Biden said, well, Kamala, you were bused, the local school board decided that, not the federal government. And that's when I'm sitting there, I'm on the second row right in the front. I'm saying, wait a minute, what is he talking about, states' rights? So it's all right if the local community did the busing, but the federal government shouldn't impose it? So that means that the local government should decide on segregation, should decide on public accommodations, should decide on voting, should decide on LGBTQ rights, should decide on women's right to choose. If you go back into local authorities making the decisions and keep the federal government out, that's a slippery slope. The whole idea of the civil rights movement in the 60s was to make sure the federal government would protect the minority against majority tyranny. That's what Joe Biden has to answer. Is that what you're saying? Is that what you believe? Unfortunately, he's not going to be at essence, but he's going to have to answer that question. Where will this go? I don't know. Political pundits got that. They think he may double back in the second debate, fight back. They think Ms. Harris can't keep her momentum. Who knows? My position is we must keep our issues out front. The issues that we raised of criminal justice reform. To his credit, Joe Biden did say at National Action Network's annual Martin Luther King breakfast in Washington, D.C. this year that it did go too far, and he was one of the authors of the crime bill, 1994. He said that. Good. He should have taken a similar position on this whole busing question and this whole states' right question. So we've got to deal with criminal justice. We've got to deal with the question of reparations, H.R. 40. And we've got to deal with the issue of equal education and economic empowerment. We still are doubly unemployed, the white, still can't get contracts, still are getting redlined, still are getting gerrymandered. All of these issues must come up. That's one of the reasons why you ought to support National Action Network, because at our convention, let me show you the difference. When you saw the debates, reparations only came up one time, and that's when Marion Williamson brought it up. It was not brought up by the moderators. It was not picked up by any other candidates. She brought up reparations. Nobody else picked it up. I made every candidate answer the question when they came to National Action Network. And we had them all. Biden had not announced yet. We had them all but two. And nobody, no other civil rights group has had as many of the candidates. And I did not let them stand up there and just talk. I made them answer the questions. Because that's why National Action Network exists. Action. We want you to take a stand on policy. There's some of you sitting there right now that has never supported National Action Network. Not sent $1, $5, $10. You've had a holiday weekend. This is your chance to show. I may not go to a march, I may not go to rallies, I may not be out there raising my voice, Reverend Al, but I appreciate that you make people stand up for me and mine. Send $1, send $5, send $10, take a membership. Call right now, 877-626-4651. We're open. People are at the phones. 1-877-626-4651. Or you can go online to www.nationalactionnetwork.net and join or make a contribution right now to help us keep putting that pressure on. How are we going to protect voting rights? How are we going to deal with the issues of economic empowerment? Why do we have all these pension funds where a large majority of them, in some cases, or a significant percentage, comes out of our community? But all of the money managers that many of the municipalities, cities, state, private corporations, and unions give it to white money managers who use our money to invest with developers that gentrify us. Who's going to fight that? And how do we fight it if you won't support us? Now, it troubles me that as we look at all of this political and social questioning, that we are not moving in a strategic way. When the Supreme Court just last week ruled that political gerrymandering is legal, that means that they can draw the lines now that will nullify all of us. Let me take time to explain this to you, because a lot of people don't understand this. They can, if you're in state A, here's the state, 30 legislative seats in the state house, whether it's assemblyman, alderman, whatever you call it, 30 representatives. Let's use that as an example. What they can do now is gerrymander to cut those lines where they can take the blacks in that state and put them all in 2 districts, chop up the other map, and have 28 right-wing districts. So no matter what you propose in that state legislature, they got 28 to 2 black to white to vote. That's what gerrymandering can do. Because gerrymandering goes by how the state cuts the lines. So even with the population, they can lump everybody in 1 or 2 districts, blacks, Latinos, have the rest of it chopped up in small districts, and they can outvote on every one of our legislative proposals. That is frightening. We got to fight that, and we have to fight it from the ground. And if we don't support those that are fight, we will end up with them ruling in a way that you would not believe where we're headed back for. Look at what we're dealing with police brutality. I've preached and done the eulogies at several funerals this year all over this country. And there's no police reform going on. Mayor Pete Buttigieg, who we helped the family with that funeral in South Bend, I said to him, yes, you're progressive, yes, you're liberal, but why can't you fire the cop that didn't have the body camera on? Why can't you fire the police chief if you claim that you're at fault, you didn't get diversity done? 6 policemen in a city 26% black. Well, I didn't get it done. Well, good. Tell the police chief he got 90 days to bring the numbers up, or you're going to get a police chief that can. You fired the black police chief for other reasons that had nothing to do with nothing. It's time to let those of us that are willing to take the risk and that are willing to stand up to be able to stand. And we don't expect everybody to do what we do, but at least support it, because you will benefit from it. Let me say this to our faith community. We are in the tradition of those that fought from a church-based, faith-based activism to become the cutting edge on empowerment, equality, and fairness for our community. There has always been in the black church, if it was Frederick Douglass in the AME church, all the way through to Dr. King. I went this week to the Rainbow Push Convention because I started my social ministry. I started preaching when I was 4. I joined Operation Breadbasket under Reverend Jesse Jackson and Reverend William Augustus Jones, who became my pastor when I was 12 years old. At 13, I became the youth director of the chapter here in New York of Operation Breadbasket. No matter how well known I've gotten, no matter how I host a TV show now on MSNBC and national radio show and had access to the White House, I don't forget where I started. There will be no National Action Network in over 103 cities and all. You always go and support your roots, because a tree grows from its roots. And if you start leaning away from your roots, you're going to snap. It's also biblical. Every prophet in the Bible always refers to the prophets that they are fulfilling in their generation. They don't imitate them, but they're bringing their prophetic tradition into their generation. So when a prophet spoke, he would say, in the name of the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, I came to fulfill the law of Moses. He did not, or she did not come and say, I came to start something new. I come in the tradition of what I grew up in, the King movement, Dr. King, Reverend Jones, Reverend Jackson. Even Jesus the Christ, think about this now. Even Jesus, God's Son, as we believe firmly in the church. The first time we met Jesus was Matthew 1st chapter. What's the first thing Matthew did? The first chapter was to guide us back through Jesus' lineage to David to show the connection. Even Jesus, in one of his acts, is he went down and had John the Baptist, who was controversial, being attacked. He didn't go down there and say, John, I am the Son of God. He went down and submitted to him because he wanted to show, I came to empower those that carry the word, not to replace them, not to say I'm the new thing. One of the most important things that we miss is when Jesus went on the mountain. We call it the Mount of Transfiguration. And his disciples woke up and saw him talking to Moses and Elijah. Why? Because Jesus consulted with Moses, the law, and Elijah, the prophets. So who are you that you think you've got to be something original and different and sever yourself from a connection with what preceded you? Have your own style, have your own personality, but make sure it is in line with the prophetic tradition that God would have at these times. Otherwise, you're out of order. I said this week in Chicago, the difference between a fortune teller and a prophet is connected to the prophetic tradition. A fortune teller is just psychic and can tell you some things, mostly that you already know. It is time for the black church to get back in the prophetic tradition, connected to the struggle of those that before us in the black church have stood up and fought back. Why? Because the people supported our churches. They've taken their nickels and dimes and built these great edifices. You ought not take that for you personally and not take that to enhance the people. Jesus said, if you love me, feed my sheep. If you love me, feed my sheep. Who is the greatest? The servant. If you're not feeding anybody, if you're not serving anybody, then really what makes you a Christian? That you put a title on yourself that you don't live up to? That's why you've got to step back and say, am I serving? Am I feeding the sheep? Or am I making the sheep feed me? Am I building the mission department or the pastor's aid committee, Reverend? What are we really about? God will bless us, and nothing wrong with the pastors benefiting and prospering if they're doing the work. That's why it says, seek ye first the kingdom of heaven and his righteousness. Do the righteous stuff. And all these other things will be added to it. But to say my people want me to live good, yes, they should want you to live good if you're doing good. But the objective is not just you living good. The objective is to do good, love mercy, and walk humbly before God. So as we go through this political season, can you imagine how this president, he takes the 4th of July, lines up military equipment, tanks, have flyovers, showing the military power of the country. I suggested on my MSNBC show, he read Frederick Douglass's speech on why the slave doesn't celebrate the 4th of July. One reason is because for a century and a half, by 1776, we'd already been slaves for a century and a half. We never had the Emancipation Proclamation until 1863. And then after that, we went through 100 years of apartheid, segregation, Jim Crow. So clearly, we celebrate the 4th on the promise of what America was supposed to stand for and how we supposed to make that happen. But we can't celebrate something that we were not part of. We celebrate something that we can make a change and a difference. That's why I go to New Orleans every year to deal with hundreds of thousands of our people, to try and reach as many as I can, to be involved or support those that are involved. That's how you spend the 4th. We cannot be seduced into being comfortable with second-class citizenship and being comfortable with being marginalized and ignored. We have gotten too quiet, and we've, in many ways, backed up and allowed people to do to us whatever they wanted to do. And that, brothers and sisters, is dangerous. That is something that we cannot tolerate. It is biblical. How do you say it's biblical, Sharpton? Well, let's look at the word. If God did not want us to fight slavery, then why did God tell Moses to tell Pharaoh to let his people go? Why would God be a liberator in the Old Testament and be an accommodationist now? All through the Bible is a litany of stories of God taking his people from slavery to empowering them with their own government and nation. That's what we have the power to do now. I've been blessed in my years that I was involved in 84 and 88 when Jesse Jackson ran for president. I ran myself in 2004. And I was blessed to be involved in 2008 to help elect a black president and re-elect him in 2012. I lived to see all of that, all those years coming to fruition as I sat on the platform as a guest of President Obama. Now, at 72, even before the others ran, a black woman from Brooklyn, Shirley Chisholm, ran. I was one of the youth directors of her campaign. When I look at Kamala Harris now tied in the polls as a front runner and see a black woman may possibly run all the way through this, I may live to see that. That's why I say, don't ever give up. Keep on fighting. You talk yourself out of a fight. Oh, we can't do this. Oh, that ain't going to happen. You don't know what is going to happen till you stand up with faith and belief and go for it. If you deal with your mind and mine, nothing will happen. But I still believe like I did when I was a little boy preacher in the Church of God in Christ under Bishop F.D. Washington. That with God all things is possible. But God is not going to force it on us. God's going to wait for us to show that we have the faith to do all we can and then let him do the rest, including correct the politics. I don't know which candidate is the right one, but I know that if we fight hard for what we believe, the right one will emerge out of that, and God will give us the strength we need. And the strength we need is first knowing that we can do all things, not just get a new car, all things. Yeah, you can get a new car, you can also get a new mayor, and a new governor, and a new president, all things. It's not limited to your personal comfort items and material things. It is all things through Christ who strengthens us. So I wanted to have this chat with you today. I didn't want a guest speaker because I wanted you to really think about where we are, what is required of us, and what it is we need to be about. Let me also go through some personal stuff with you, and I'll let you go. You need to, early in life, submit to what it is that your purpose in life is for, and what it is that you were born to do. What is your calling? What is your purpose? And what is the reason that you are on this earth? God brought you here for a purpose. What is it? Have you answered your calling? That thing inside you that compels you. That thing that you, no matter what you do, you keep being driven back to this. You keep feeling this spirit of uneasiness because you're not answering your calling. If you are called to something, you will not find peace until you answer that call, because that's why you're here. God didn't make a mistake by bringing you in this earth. You're not an accident. You're here to serve a purpose. Look at nature. Everything operating in precision. Birds sing that ain't never been to music class. Animals in the forest know what to do, know where to go to get their food and their nourishment. Everything operates based on what purpose they were brought here for. Man, God gave the power of decision, and you've decided to be confused when it's clear. Well, remember, how's it clear? That inner voice, that inner uneasiness that keeps pulling you is telling you that ain't what you're here for. Do this. Well, I don't know if I do this if I'm going to be successful. I don't know where I'm going to get the money to do it. I don't know if I had the connection. First, submit to it. Commit to it. And God will do the rest. Serve your purpose. If you don't know what your purpose is in life, you are serving other people's purposes and fulfilling them. And you don't need a cosigner. God don't need your friends, your family. Nobody tell you can do it. You got to know deep down inside that for whatever reason this connects. I have a smartphone. It can do a lot of things, all kind of social media stuff, emails, Instagram, you name it. I can do it right on the smartphone. But you know what can't happen? If the phone is not connected, I can't do anything. Because the connection determines the use of all that it can do. Reason why you are at a stagnant point, the reason why you can't move further is you have lost your connection. your spiritual connection with your life's purpose. Yeah, you could break out, you could get things done once you connect it. And once you connect it, then you can use the options and gifts that God has given you. But without the connection, you're holding a phone with a lot of ability, but it's not connected, so it is of no use to you. Have all the talent in the world. If it's not connected, talent won't enhance you. You can be the smartest person in the world. If you're not connected, it will not help you. Get back to seeking and having your spiritual connection. Your connection of really knowing that God brought me here to serve this. Well, wait a minute, Reverend. Reverend Al, if he brought me here, why did I go through so much? Maybe to prepare you and make you stronger and tougher to be able to do what you have to do and not be rattled and stopped. Because sometimes some missions, some callings are difficult to achieve. And God's got to toughen you up so that you can fight that fight, because you're not doing something that's going to be easy. Look at what God put every prophet in the Bible through. There's no one in the Bible that God didn't test and put something on, because the harder the test, the more worthy you are of being exalted. I used to go, when I was younger, I used to love to go to boxing matches. When I was a kid, I knew Muhammad Ali. As I got older, I knew Mike Tyson. Ali's the greatest champion of all times. And one of the things that was interesting to me is Ali used to tell me all the time that you don't win, Sharpton, in the ring. You win in the training for the win, for the ring. You win running the mountains. You win sparring, taking the blows. That's where you win. And take your trials and tribulations as your training, as your sparring, so that when you get in the ring, you can take the blows. You can take the criticisms. You can take the doubts. You can take the gossip. You can take the disbelievers, because you've been trained for that. And you're focused on what you were called to do. The old folks used to say when I was growing up, when they'd hear somebody saying something, well, they ain't got no heaven or hell to put me in. As I grew older, they're right. Yeah, I faced a lot of criticism. But the judgment of whether I fulfilled what I supposed to is not in their hands. It's in God's hand. And if I do what I'm supposed to do and do it well, everything will come together and everything will work out in the end, because God will ordain it that way if you're obedient to the calling. I remember in my civil rights work young, I met James Brown as a teenager and others big, and all kind of offers to do things, and I kept coming back to my calling. No, I'm a minister. I'll help where I can, but I'm a minister called to deal with social justice. I could have made a lot more money, lived a lot more comfortable, and still been known, but I wouldn't have answered my calling. But by answering my calling, I don't have the mansions and the private jets and all of that. But I have more peace than those that have all that, unless that was part of their calling. Seek to be at peace with yourself by being at peace with God. And the way to be at peace with God is to do what He gave you life for. Wake up every morning knowing you didn't earn another day. It's a gift from God. And use that day to show God that you're grateful. Oh yeah, have fun, but put some time aside to make sure you're serving your purpose and that you're doing what you're supposed to do, not what is self-aggrandizing to you. That is what's imperative. And that is what's important. And you're going to have opposition. Face the opposition. But don't ever fear the opposition. Knowing that you can make it through it all. Let me tell you something. And I'll close on this. All of us will face giants in life. You're facing giants right now in your life. Don't fight your giant on your giant's terms. Fight your giant on the terms God gives you. Nobody wanted to fight Goliath. They were all afraid of Goliath. The shepherd boy David that Samuel the prophet had said God anointed, he was the one that fought Goliath. But here's a part that people miss. Saul, who was king, who ended up envious and jealous of David, said, well, put on my breastplate, here's my sword. And David said, no, not only do I feel called to face the giant, to defend my people, to defend the God of Israel, I'm going to defend them in a way you don't know. I'm going to stay in the tradition, but I'm going to innovate it my way. I don't need your breastplate. I don't need your sword. I'm going to take some smooth stones and a slingshot. And he defeated the giant, not fighting the fight that the giant was used to fighting, not fighting the fight that people around you are used to fighting, not being what everybody expected, but letting God use you in his way to do something different. Well, my challenge to you is you need some slingshot faith. You need to step out and know that I'm in the tradition. I'm going to maintain the prophetic tradition, but I have my own style and my own tools that don't look like nothing to you. But God don't need your breastplate. He can take some stones and topple the giants in your life. Don't you be afraid to be innovative and creative as long as you're in that lane that you're supposed to be. Let God create a new thing in you. We're going to do a new thing in this nation. I know y'all think it can't happen, but people never thought they'd get from the back of the bus. People never thought we'd be able to stay in hotels. And that looks like little things now, but it was big then. And we're going to do bigger things. We elected and re-elected a black man president. We're going to do bigger things. We're going to build a healthcare system that will take care of everybody. We're going to fight to change the criminal justice system so our kids are not locked away in disproportionate sentences. Oh, we're going to do that. This is not some dream that will not be achieved. We're going to do that. And you that'll step out and help us do it, go to www.nationalactionnetwork.net. And you have little faith, keep sitting around talking about what we can't do and watch what God uses us to do. Just watch us. I can say like David in the 37th Psalm. I started as a young boy preacher. I preached my first sermon at Washington Temple Church of God in Christ in Brooklyn when I was 4 years old. July 9th, 1959. I'll be 65 this October. I've seen a lot of things. I've seen racism, and I've seen a black president working in his office. I've seen welfare checks waiting for the mailman to bring it for my mother, and I had to stand by the mailbox to make sure no one broke in. And I've seen great wealth. I've seen peace. Tropical islands beautiful. And I've been in the midst of riotous wars. But like David said in the 37th Psalm, one thing I've never seen the righteous forsaken, nor their seed beg for bread. I know we're going to change this country. I know we're going to change this world. God is just waiting on us While y'all talking about wait on the Lord, no, the Lord is already moving. He's just waiting on us so we can move even further. So I wish you a great rest of the weekend. We're going to show you some more footage of what Nan does. But go to www.nationalactionnetwork.net. www.nationalactionnetwork.net. Support us. Be with us. Call right now, 1-877-626-4651. 1-877-626-4651. Say, you know, Reverend Al, I really ain't got $50, but I got 5. I have 1. I have 10. I'll send you $2 a month. I'm going to help you. We need you to make that commitment. The other thing is there are prayer warriors at that number. Some of you face illness. Some of you face family problems. Some of you face anxiety, frustration, can't figure out your way, don't know what tomorrow brings. You need to pray with somebody that has been through it. My father left when I was 9. I went from a nice middle-class home, 10-room house, 2-car garage, to where my mother had to bring my sister and I to the heart of the ghetto. I never knew what the hood was till I was almost 10 years old and had to reorient my life. So I know what welfare is and food stamps is, and I know what anxiety is. I know we're trying to figure out why did God let this happen to me when it was no fault of mine. And I know that if there wasn't some praying warriors, then my mother wouldn't have got through, and I wouldn't have got through. You need prayer partners, and they're sitting at the phone. Wait a minute, you gonna call a civil rights group to pray? That's how we fight civil rights. Because we prayed up, that's how we stay up. 1-877-626-4651. 1-877-626-4651. You ever wonder with all of the controversies and stuff you hear they throw at me, why we still here? Because we prayed up and we stayed up. Because if God be for you, it's more than the whole world against you. And he promised. And I just am too crazy enough to believe the promise he made he'll keep, that no weapon formed against you shall prosper. That's why when I'm sitting up there on the stages with presidents and vice presidents and senators and challenging them, and people say to me, Remal, what you've been through, you ought to be glad you're on the stage. I didn't go on the stage for an achievement. I went on the stage for a purpose, to speak truth to power, to stand up for what God would want his people to do. I'm not impressed with being in the room. I'm impressed with changing what is happening in the room, so it changes the rooms of the people that we serve and stand up for. I'm not looking to be in the halls of power just for some position of self-aggrandizement. I want to go in the halls of power to deal on behalf of the powerless, like my mother, like my mother's friends, that nobody would speak up for. And every once in a while, when a Dr. King would come by and all, that's all they had. I want to be part of that number that speaks for people that had nobody else to speak for them. They didn't have the money for lobbyists. They didn't have money for people that could go there and speak on their behalf and they take care of them. They had to depend on those that would answer the call and have more power than the lobbyists in Washington, more power than the people with influence. So it doesn't matter to me whether it's a tracksuit or a suit and tie. I know my calling. Well, Reverend, that doesn't make sense to me. Might not make sense to you, but it made sense to me. I told you I started preaching when I was 4. That didn't make sense. Who gonna hear a 4-year-old boy preach? But they did. By the time I was 7, I was on the road. So I've been making no sense for a long time. I sure ain't gonna get 64 years later, 65 if I make it to October, and start trying to make sense to you now. No, I believe in that song, I'm running, trying to make 100. 99 and a half won't do. And I'm gonna stretch out. I work out every morning. You that follow me on Instagram on Real-Sharp, I work out every morning because I gotta push myself and press myself to make that mark, to make that 100. You may not care if you make it or not, but I do. And there are others listening and watching me right now that really care. So stop wallowing in your sickness. Pick up the phone and call us right now. Stop wallowing in your anxiety. Pick up the phone and call us right now. Stop wallowing in your family confusion and the fighting and the infighting. Pick up the phone and call us right now. Prayer changes things. Yeah, you have trust issues. You don't trust what your husband or your wife tells you because you've been hurt and bruised before. And you want to get by that because it makes everything so poisonous. But it's hard for you to get by because every time you trusted, you got hurt. Pick up the phone, call us, and let's pray about it. Yes, your children just won't act right. No matter what you do, no matter how much you talk to them, no matter how much you provide for them, they just won't act right. We've been through all of that. Pick up the phone and call us. We are activists that live real lives, that understand real things on the ground. Too many people out in our community trying to lead you that don't love you, don't even like you. We are you. We've been through it all. But we're still here because there's a God stronger than the forces against us. And you need that connection that I talked about. Because once you connect with those that have been battered and bruised and wounded like you, they can help guide you to a path where the storms won't stop, where the clouds won't move back, but the storm won't stop your stride. Peace is not avoiding the storms. Peace is when you can find tranquility in the midst of the storm. Peace is when you can just walk knowing that on the other side of them clouds, the sun is still shining. And you can just get through a little of this wetness and cloudiness to keep going to the other side. I'm not going to tell you your troubles are going to be over. I'm going to tell you can get over your troubles and you can use them to strengthen you. And you can insulate yourself with a spiritual armor. That's why Paul said, put on the whole armor of God. Your problem is you taking body blows because you haven't put on the armor of God. When you put on the armor of God, faith, they can shoot at you and it'll bounce off your armor. They can talk about you, but it'll bounce off your armor. They can scandalize you, but it'll bounce off your armor. They can, Mal, did you hear what they said? Bounce off my armor. Because I'm not fighting Al Sharpton's battle. I'm fighting the battle that God assigned me to and called me for in the person of Al Sharpton. Because I didn't decide to birth Al Sharpton. I didn't pick my mother and father. I didn't pick my socioeconomic condition that I'd be born. I didn't pick my location. God decided all of that. So I know that he decided the rest. And in my own way, that is unique to the gifts he gave me, I'm going to do what he wants me to do. And that's my challenge to you. God gave you gifts. You don't own them. You didn't ask for them, but you got them. A gift is not something you go and try to attain. A gift is something you naturally have and you can enhance and should enhance to make it even more proficient in how you use it. But use that gift for greater than you. And if you do the things you want, you will be able to have. But you letting your trials and tribulations get in the way of your gift. You got too much covering it, and you need to break through your gift so that your gift is your focus, not your problems, not your challenges, not what you're going through. Your gift is what you're about. That's why God gave it to you. And he just wants to know if you're strong enough to let that gift break through the mess to get to your message. Call us. Pray with us. Help us. 1-877-626-4651. Or go to www.nationalactionnetwork.net. Well, I'll be back in the House of Justice in New York next Saturday. Hope that you in the New York area come see me. You that not watch this on Impact or listen to it on the radio. And pray for me. I'm down in New Orleans doing what I'm supposed to do. And I'm going to keep doing it. I'm going to hold up the blood-stained banner. Why is the blood-stained banner stained with blood? Because you're going to have to shed some blood in order to do what God wants you to do. But he promised that anyone that goes through a crucifixion, I'll give them the resurrection. Every time they knock me down, and I've been down, out flat, he always picked me back up. That's why I like that story about Muhammad Ali. He saw a young man said, Reverend, he said, Muhammad, I'm sorry. He said, Muhammad Ali, I was there the night you got knocked out. He said, no, it wasn't me. He said, no, I was there. He said, it wasn't me. He said, no, Ali, I was there when you got knocked out. He said, no, you have never seen me knocked out. You either saw me standing up or getting back up. And that's my life. They might have knocked me down, but I was getting up before I hit the floor because I serve a getting up God. God bless you. Have a great rest of the weekend.
Boom. Fascinating.
Got it? 53 minutes, right?